Ever get that feeling? You know, when you walk into a place and bam, memories just hit you.
Like a ton of bricks.
Exactly, like the smell of your grandma's cooking or seeing your old elementary school again. Places can really hook into our brains, yanking us back in time.
Time travel without the DeLorean?
Huh, exactly. But what if, and just bear with me here, what if those good memories, those warm, fuzzy feelings, what if they were more like a trap?
Okay, now you've got me intrigued.
That's what makes today's deep dive so fascinating, honestly. We're looking at SCP-7337, and let me tell you, it's a doozy, even for, well, the SCP Foundation.
And for those who might be new to the world of the Foundation, they deal with the weird stuff,
The unexplained
the
stuff.
potentially dangerous stuff.
Their motto sums it up perfectly. Secure, contain, protect. Which leads us right back to SCP-7327.
They definitely wanted to contain this one.
Okay, picture this. The most boring, rundown, totally depressing strip mall you've ever seen. Got it.
I'm seeing peeling paint, faded signs, and weeds growing through the cracks in the asphalt.
Perfect. Now plop an equally boring building right smack dab in the middle of that strip mall. That's SCP-7327, at least from the outside.
Yeah, you'd never guess what's lurking beneath the surface, just from a casual glance.
It's very much a wolf in sheep's clothing situation. The SCP Foundation, they probably wouldn't have even noticed this place if it weren't for, well, a rather unsettling pattern they started to see.
Missing persons reports,
And a lot of them.
and all originating near this seemingly ordinary building.
Which is where things start to get really strange, even by SCP standards.
So we're already talking missing people, but hold on, folks, because here's where it gets even weirder.
Yes.
These weren't just any missing people.
Nope. Every single one of them, every last one, fell within a very specific age range.
Born between 1975 and 1992. That's pretty specific.
Right. It's like this building has a thing for Gen X and older millennials. What's so special about those folks?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Why this particular generation?
The SCP Foundation, they've poured resources into figuring that out. And so far, no concrete answers. But they've got some theories, right? Working hypotheses.
Oh, they've got theories.
Here.
The prevailing one connects those birth years, 75 to 92, to a shared generational experience. Those born in that window, they grew up in a very specific time.
Okay, so we're talking pre-internet, pre-smartphones, pre-social media.
Back when arcades were the place to be, and Blockbuster Night was a major event.
Exactly. It was a completely different world with its own unique sights, sounds, even smells.
A sensory overload in all the best ways. The flashing lights, the sounds of those arcade games, the smell of popcorn pizza.
And SCP-7327, it seems to tap into all of that. But then it cranks things up to 11.
It's like someone took all those sensory experiences, bottled them, and then unleashed them inside this otherwise ordinary building.
And we're not just talking about vague impressions here. The test logs you mentioned, they paint a pretty vivid picture. The SCP Foundation sent people into this place.
Oh yeah, they sent people in, all right. Primarily D-class personnel, which,
Here.
well, let's just say they have a unique relationship with risk.
Right, the folks who drew the short straw.
Something like that. Anyway, these D-class, they went in with cameras, notebooks, the whole 9 yards, to document whatever they encountered. And what they brought back, well, it's both fascinating and a little creepy, to be honest.
I bet. So what were they seeing in there? What kind of greatest hits compilation did SCP-7327 cook up for them?
We're talking about people walking into this rundown building and finding themselves in perfectly recreated childhood hangouts. Arcades packed with functional playable games, pizzerias pumping out that scent of pepperoni and cheese, toy stores overflowing with, get this now, vintage action figures and board games.
Talk about a blast from the past. But it's not all fun and games, is it? Because we started this conversation with missing people.
Right, and here's where the secure, contain, protect part of the SCP Foundation's motto really comes into play. They secured SCP-7327, but when they did, they made a grim discovery. 14 bodies.
14 inside that building.
Inside the building. 14 people who, it seems, got so caught up in those personalized nostalgia trips, they just forgot about everything else.
Forgot to eat, forgot to drink, forgot that time doesn't stand still, even when you're surrounded by your childhood.
It's like they got so engrossed in watching the highlight reel, they forgot to press pause and live their actual lives. And that brings us to researcher Levi Dennison, a fascinating case in all of this.
Dennison, he volunteered to go inside SCP-7327, right? To see if someone could willingly walk away from its allure.
He was a fascinating case. Born in '88, so smack dab in that target demographic.
A child of the 80s, just like the folks who got lost in there.
Precisely. And Dennison's testimony, it adds this whole other layer to understanding what makes SCP-7327 tick. Because Dennison, he experienced everything those D-Class personnel did. The arcade, the pizza, even described this old video rental place he used to frequent as a kid, all there recreated in perfect detail. But there was something else he kept mentioning, a feeling he couldn't shake.
What was it, this feeling? Give us the details.
Optimism. That's the word Dennison used, over and over again. He described this overwhelming sense of optimism he felt inside SCP-7327.
Yeah.
He even went so far as to contrast it with the cold, dull, harsh world outside.
So it wasn't just happy memories, but something more fundamental, like this building was recreating not just the past, but also a feeling, a romanticized, almost idealized version of it.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Dennison, he wasn't some detached observer.
Yeah.
This wasn't just a scientific endeavor for him. It got personal fast. He even admitted to crying at one point, overwhelmed by it all. He compared being inside SCP-7327 to being in Willy Wonka's factory. Everything seemed pure, good, full of wonder.
Which makes the fact that he almost didn't leave even more unsettling.
It took a lot of effort to get Dennison to leave. He kept pleading for just a little more time, even though he was aware of the risks of what had happened to the others. The pull of that manufactured optimism, it was almost too strong.
So what is it about that specific type of optimism, the kind many associate with their youth, that makes it so alluring, addictive even? What is it about arcades and Blockbuster and all that that seems to really hook into people?
Now, those are the million-dollar questions, aren't they? And while we can't exactly ask SCP-7327 to reveal its secrets, what we can do is look at Dennison's reaction, his experience, through the very human lens of our need for connection, for belonging, for a sense of hope. Even if that hope is built on a foundation of manufactured nostalgia.
So it's like comfort food, but for the soul. Only this comfort food can make you forget to, actually live.
It's a good analogy. And what's really interesting is that it's not just the events themselves. Most people's childhoods, they weren't all sunshine and rainbows, right?
Right. There were awkward phases, bad haircuts, schoolyard drama.
Exactly. But memory is a fickle thing. We tend to edit out the bad parts, smooth over the rough edges.
Leaving us with the highlight reel, the good old days.
In SCP-7327, it seems to be tapping into that very human tendency to romanticize the past. And then, well, it weaponizes it.
It's almost sinister when you think about it that way, turning something as innocent as nostalgia into, well, this.
It's like holding up a funhouse mirror to our own desires, our own unfulfilled needs.
And maybe by studying those reflections, those distorted images, we can learn something about ourselves and why we're so drawn to the past, even if it's a manufactured, idealized version of it.
It's a fascinating thought. I remember Dennison, as he was leaving SCP-7327, he muttered something like, "The problem's just in the doing."
What do you think he meant by that?
I think he recognized that staying in that manufactured reality, it was a choice, not a sentence. He could walk away. He had that power.
He had the self-awareness, the willpower to step back from that ledge, back into the real world, even if it wasn't as immediately gratifying as the fantasy.
And that's a powerful realization because it suggests that we're not powerless against this pull toward nostalgia.
It's not just about recognizing the allure, but about asking ourselves why it's so alluring in the first place. What is it about the present that makes the past seem so appealing?
Exactly. It's like that old saying, the past is a foreign country, they do things differently there.
But sometimes the present can feel like a foreign country too, especially if we're constantly looking over our shoulder at what used to be.
That's a good way to put it. It's about finding a balance, wouldn't you say?
Finding a way to appreciate the past, to learn from it, but not letting it overshadow the present. So where does that leave us with SCP-7327? Besides, a healthy fear of abandoned strip malls.
I think it serves as a reminder. Nostalgia, it can be a powerful drug. It can offer comfort, joy, even a sense of belonging. But like any drug, it can be abused. It's up to us to find that balance, to enjoy the trip down memory lane without losing ourselves in the maze.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What will people in the future be nostalgic for?
Oh, I'm sure they'll find something. The human capacity for nostalgia, it seems to be limitless.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap things up. Another deep dive into the strange and unsettling world of the SCP Foundation. Until next time, folks, remember, the past is a great place to visit, but you wouldn't want to live there. And if you do find yourself face to face with a nostalgia trap disguised as a rundown building, well, maybe give the SCP Foundation a call. They've got the containment protocols for that. Ever get that